Some chess openings are completely inoffensive. I mean, you wouldn't break into a cold sweat if your opponent ventured, let's say, the close Sicilian, or maybe the exchange Slav, or even one b3. No, these aren't openings to send shivers down the spine. Other openings need parental consent before Johnny the Obnoxious Jr. is allowed to touch them. For instance, no self-respecting budding Kasparov will be allowed to venture the King's Indian, the Benko-Gambit, or the highly analysed 2c3 Sicilian without mummy's consent. Other openings need maniacs in order to play them. Ask mad, bad and dangerous Mike Basman about that, with his grobs and his orangutans, and maybe even his Durkin. But like me, if you want another class of opening altogether, then you've come to the right place, because we're in for some really adult entertainment. If there were ever a chess opening which could be designated as X-rated, then the Albin Counter-Gambit would fit the bill. White plays d4, black d5, white plays c4, and no doubt he's looking forward to a nice steady Queen's Gambit game. Then comes e5, a very violent idea, where black tries to wrest the initiative from white at the very start of the game. The good thing about the Albin, as we'll see, is that it's a gambit which white must accept if he wants to get any advantage. D takes e5 is the normal move. And on this video, I'll be looking at lines where black plays the early advance of the pawn, d4, putting a wedge into white's position. We must see the famous trap, the famous Albin trap with which many players have been caught out. And that occurs after d takes e5, d4, and white plays the immediate e3 here, trying desperately to get rid of black's strong pawn on d4. But actually e3 is a losing mistake. No doubt a lot of you know what to do, but bishop b4 check completely refutes what looks like an obvious move, with three separate comical lines. The first line sees white blocking with the knight. Now that looks halfway decent, but the easiest way to bust this line is d takes e3, that's the idea, just completely laming white's pawn structure. F takes e3, queen h4 check, g3, queen e4, hitting the pawn on e5, hitting the pawn on e3, hitting that poor old rook on h1, and forcing queen f3. Well, we continue with simple moves. Queen takes c5, no need to be fancy against this line. a3, well, I'm suggesting that, I don't really know what to do. I mean, white's position's very bad already. Bishop takes d2 check, very simple. And now king takes d2, because if bishop takes d2, b2 is hanging. So king takes d2, and then simplest is knight c6, with the idea of bishop f5 and castles on the queen side. White has a disgusting position. Now on to the no less plausible, in my view, king e2. I mean, if white can make the move e3 or move 4, he can certainly play the move king e2. And then the books give knight c6, e takes d4, knight takes d4, king e3, bishop c5. When I guess white's best move is king e4, and not many people have had the courage to play it. Finally, bishop d2, but now comes the crushing move d takes e3, with two separate lines. The trap, the famous Albin trap, occurs after bishop takes b4, e takes f2, check, king e2, otherwise white loses that queen on d1, and then f takes g1 equals knight is quite a strong move in this position, winning. If after d takes e3, queen a4 check, then the simplest is knight c6, with the idea bishop takes b4, e takes f2 check, king takes f2,